Okay, so we're back. This is part 3. This is the wrap up, right? And so I added this video here because I wanted to say, when we're talking about social constructivism with the V in there, right? This is what we are talking about, okay? When we mention to you, right, constructivism, this is what we will be talking about. As I'm saying it, I want you to look and understand what is being said, right? When we talk about social constructism, this is what we are talking about, and we see this effect on our people. We have been the lab mice, right? And so even when we talk about symbolic interactionism, this is what we are talking about, people. This, right? See, because inside of this, as you notice, as you go into one system, like you go out the house, you had your religious structures, whatever it may be, right? Then you went out into the street, right? And this is all symbolic, right? So you go out into the streets, whatever direction you go, and then these people, right, are the ones who, after you wind up in hell, right? Because we're gonna explain jail and how that's hell and how this whole system works when we get into the God part, right? But for right now, these people are in, the free part, right? But they're not really free. They're being indoctrinated, right? And so then even when they go back into the new version that has been developed for them, I mean in religious forms, right? They are being taken away from one system and being indoctrinated into a new. So they don't even see what is actually happening. None of these people, are observing what is taking place. So I'm gonna show you. Like I said, I got this. I'm gonna also hold on, bring up, pictures. Right, these are groups. Hold on, let me actually go inside here. No, no, matter of fact, I'll get to this part and when we come back. So when we wrap this part up, because I want to, basically touch on a few points, right? But as I'm touching on these points, I just want you to pay attention to, the pictures. I made a little slideshow for a different show that I did, but it's always gonna be relevant. All of these things is always gonna connect, right? So as we're talking about symbolic interaction, right, is a sociological theory that developed from practical considerations and alluded to practical effects of communications and interaction in people to make image and normal implications for deduction correspondence with others, right? So this is a framework for building theory to see society as a product of everyday interactions of individuals. In other words, it's a framework for reference for better understanding how individuals interact with one another to create a symbolic world, right? The gang culture, the gang world, they are embedded into this. This is their religion, this is their belief. And then when they go into the system, they still have the red and the blue, right? Whether it be the 6 point with the Israelites and all of that, or you go the other way with Islam, and then you just have probably like, the white guys still holding on to Christianity. That's basically what the um the system is trying to push towards, right? And not even pushing towards, that's what it's doing, right? So, basically, it's how society is preserved and created through repeated interactions between individuals. The interpretation process that occurs between interactions help create and recreate meaning. It is a shared understanding and interpretation of meaning that affects the interactions between individuals, right? We can see this. We can see this symbolic, this red, rock on the right side, the left side. We see the hand signs. We see the symbolisms, right? And as you look in the picture, and if you looking at the feet, right, you can see, you can identify, that's what this picture is, to show you, the feet. So as the pictures go, keep paying attention, and, just you'll start catching on. You'll start recognizing, what is being implied here, and you'll be able to see this in many things on your own, right? So, symbolic interaction comes from a sociological perspective which developed around, the 20th century. So, but it's way before that. This is just the section of how it advances. As this system advances, it always has to recreate its wording, but it's still the same system. That's why, it can keep going on, right? So it goes, transforms in the structure of theory, moving to a higher level of theoretical complexity. See, that's what the main objective is, to make this more complex for people to identify that it has taken place, right? So it says, um, uses symbols to create meanings for the world around the individuals. Individuals use language and thought to accomplish this goal. Self refers to an individual's ability to reflect on the way that the individual is perceived by others. Finally, society, according to Mead, is where all these interactions take place. In general, descriptions of Mead conversations portray how inside social structures, class, and power and abuse affect the advancement of self. Personality for gathering verifiable denied of the ability to characterize themselves. If you're paying attention, you will see that this structure in this whole system is pre-designed for the people. You would know that, Bloods and Crips, are either through the Greek fraternities, the Crips, and, Freemasonry, Prince Hall and them, through the Bloods and all that. Even the Crips too. I'm just, trying to narrow it down a little bit more. Um, through what system, what came about, right? But it all still was Freemasonry, and this is why these lines are crossed. Now, inside of this system, we will be learning the ideology, what is implied within these two structures. As you see, one is towards an Islamic, but then you have this Egyptian narrative, right? And so we'll be touching on all of these things. So then we have, it go, okay, most humans and humanizing activities that people engage in is talking to each other, right? Human groups are created by people, and it is only actions between them that define a society. Right? He argued that interaction through interactions, individuals are able to produce common symbols by approving, arguing, and redefining them. Having said that, interaction is shaped by mutual exchange of interpretations, the ground of socialization. This stuff by now should be coming very clear that we have been hustled and worked on, right? And we have people within our community who would do anything to be in their world, right? And so they have to get it off of us, right? Just so it won't be them. But then we can look at movies and see what was it, I believe it was Samuel L. Jackson in it, with a guy. He was like, nah, but I'm a Mason, and they still killed him. I'll get the name of that movie, right? Then we got other theories, right? Well, basically, yeah. So then we go to, how this assumption works. Most symbolic interactions believe a physical reality does indeed exist by an individual's social definition, and that social definitions do develop in part to relation to something real. People thus do not respond to this reality directly, but rather to social understandings of reality, i.e., they respond to this reality indirectly through a kind of filter, which consists of individual different perspectives. This means that humans exist not in the physical space composed of realities, but in the world composed only of objects. Three assumption frame symbolic interactionisms. Now, these are the three different ways that this is approached, right? Individuals construct meaning via the communication process, right? Via the communication process, self concept is a motive for behavior, right? A unique relationships exist between the individual and society. This is all laid out for you people. They are basically put in these systems, these groups, right? And you most likely won't be able to catch it because it's the buffer, that middle ground, right? That middle ground that's allowing this to seep down. Like how you say, like the bad child. People would assume I was the one, but I wasn't the one. You know what I mean? I was the one alert and, bad because I seen the nonsense. I wasn't the one engaging in formulating this. I utilized this system to get around, but I wasn't the one facilitating and, causing, the destruction. You know what I mean? I'm a responsive person, not a create the problem. And if I do create it, I'm quick to, snuff that out. But having defined some of the underlying assumptions of symbolic interaction is necessary to address the premises of each assumption supported. According, to Bloomer, there are three premises that can be derived from the assumptions above, which we just gave. Humans act towards things on the basis of the meaning they ascribe to those things. These gangs, these turf, these signs, everything, what it means, what it applies to them. The first premise includes everything that a human being may note in their world, including physical objects, actions, and concepts. Essentially, individuals have behaved towards objects and other based of personal meanings that the individual has already given these items. Bloom was trying to put emphasis on the meaning behind individuals' behaviors, especially speaking, psychological and sociologically explanations for those actions and behaviors. So there are people within the community who are working in this system under the guise that they're just helping with some experiment. Others under the guise that they are, working under the working with the system, say they got caught with the doing something, and so this is their way not to go to jail. So now they're set up, or they could be raised in it, and set up to have a certain pull within the community. We know them people, but most of the time, no one really understands what's taking place. Two, the meaning of such things is derived from or arise out of the social interactions that one has with others in the society. The second premise explains the meaning of such things of derived from or arise out of the social interaction that one has with other humans, right? Claim people interact with each other by interpreting, defining each other's actions instead of merely acting to each other's actions. Their responses is not made directly to the actions of one another, but instead is based on the meaning which they attach to such actions. Thus, human interpretation is mediated by the use of symbols and significations by interpretations or by ascertaining the meaning of one another's actions. Meaning is either taken for granted and pushed aside as an unimportant element which need not be investigated, or it is regarded as a mere neutral link or one of the causal chains between the cause and factors responsible for human behavior, and this behavior as the product of such factors. We see these elements, we see these people, and we take it for granted, who they are. But I always, had a keen eye. You know, the meanings are handled in a modified thought through interpretive process used by the person in dealing with the thing he or she is encounters, encounters, right? So, symbolic interactions describe thinking as an inner conversation. Call this inner dialogue minding, right? Which is a delayed in one thought process that happens when one thinking about they will do next, right? So we can look at music videos, songs, I believe Prodigy mentioned it, posing, with the gun. We see Monster Cody mentioned it in his rhyme. We hear these references, so we know that these things and these images are passed on because these are different communities in different areas, but ironically, they all took on a certain stance and persona because this is what was given. You understand, like how to identify something, how to see it in its controlled force. That's why you would know who was a facilitator of something, because if you put something into action and you see it, you know that that came from this area or this individual who brought that into the fold, right? But it's still adding on to what is already there. But you're able to identify it by its actions, right? So it goes, these meanings are handled in a modified thought, an interpretive process used by the person in dealing with the things he or she encounters. We naturally talk to ourselves in order to sort out the meaning of a difficult situation. But first, we need language. We know gang dialogue. We know woke language. There's language, right? Where we at? Situation, language. Okay. Before we can think, we must be able to interpret symbolically. The emphasis on symbols negating negotiating negotiating meaning in social construction of society brought attention to the role people play. Role taking is a key mechanism that permits people to see another person's perspective, to understand what an action might mean to another person. Role taking is part of our lives at an early age. For instance, playing house and pretending to be someone else. There is an impervious quality of role. However, actors often take on a script they follow because of an uncertainty of role in society context. The burden of role making is on the person in the situation. In this scene, we are proactive participants in our environments, the role that we're playing, right? When you hear the world is a stage, right? And so these are the different stages people are in. I just, like I said, I learned to wear many hats and not be comfortable, enough to stay in one hat. You know what I mean? Research methodology, five central ideas. I'm thinking just a little. I had it highlighted, but I had left through it, right? So then we can come up here. You basically get the symbolism this is symbolic, right? This is symbolic interactionism. So symbolically how you are interacting, this is how you see it, right? Then we got the social constructism, how this society is built, right? So we see it. So now, how do you build it, right? You build this society, you know, by two things, right? It goes, there is a weak and strong social constructism. Weak social constructism relies on brute facts, right? You can't start denying this. This is as we go on. I told you this is a whole lot of information. So nothing here is, oh, this is it, and now I just made my little claim and I walk away. Oh no. This is a very deep thing. So don't think that my research comes with some little Yankee Doodle stuff and then it's we move on. No, no, no. This is massive information, and I'm just giving it to you in the most clearest form, right? So we see, this not that relies on brute facts. Now we can take something as a Bible, right? I can point to, this verse. We all agree that that said that. Then I can take my hand from the book and narrate a story and then jump to another verse and do this same thing, right? That's a strong social construct. If you can understand what was just said, by being able to point these things out and lead somebody, I call it leading the witness, right? By being able to have that ability is how you can control, the masses and build up this image. We what they say, the pineal gland, the third eye. Well, being able to have that imagery was how this whole system was able to be bought. You had, and even though and I'm talking about beyond LA, right? Because, NWA, that system was already set up there, right? Even by, I believe by the time NWA came out, they even had the white boys in Little Rock, already on it. So, and that's another thing that I'm pointing out, how a system is set up, right? And it, expands. You understand what I mean? And so a strong social construct is being able to paint images within somebody's head without necessarily having strong factors. Speculative. When we think about Freemasonry, we have operative and we have speculative. So when you listen to a lot of these conversations, right, and we will be going through dialogues and all of that, and you will see how this speculative system is, the social constructivism, right? So social construct, it has been objective that strong social constructivism undermines the foundation of science as the pursuit of objectivity and as a theory defies any attempts to falsifying it. You just in that world. It's a whole new system of technology. Social constructism or construction is the meaning, notion, or connotation placed on an object or even by a society and adopted by that society that respects to how they view or deal with the object or event. Social constructism posits that phenomena do not have an independent foundation outside the mental and linguistics representations that people develop about them throughout their history. Right? So how how this got started, and these tales, right? Inside of that is something where if you really investigate, which I'm approve, you'll see that this system was put up for us to fail. So the only way to get out of this is for a person to accept it, going, damn, they pulled us, they rocked us. All of these people that we've been going to war over, right, that we lost, we supposed to turn around and go, wait a minute, this was all cause of you. So all of those tears, all of those pains, all of that stuff you was responsible for. And I ain't talking about necessarily these people, but yes, inside of this community, yes, there is those who helped facilitate this movement because they wanted to be accepted by the other side. And most of the time it came out costly for them, right? So it goes throughout. So social construct, it goes developed them throughout history and became their shared reality. From the linguistics viewpoint, social constructivism center meaning as an internal reference within language. Words refer to words, definitions to other definitions, rather to an external reality. So they can have when you talk about, oh, you got to learn the etymology of the word, all they doing is having you running in circles. That's a psychological mind um screw. You know what I'm saying? You know what I was gonna say. You know what I mean? That's a psychological mind effing. You understand what I'm saying? And that's just the reality, because that's what, is happening here. Because it's rather than an external reality, it's just constantly within your head, your self truth. In the 16th century, right, wrote, we need to interpret interpretation more than to interpret things. We need to just keep thinking about thinking rather than thinking about what has us thinking about this. What is the system? Common sense is the school that you need to investigate. And we'll be getting into all of this, right? It goes, the real environment is altogether too big, too complex, and too fleeting for direct acquaintance between people and their environment. Each person constructs a pseudo environment that is subjective, biased, and necessarily abridged mental image of the world. And to a degree, everyone's pseudo environment is a fiction. People live in the same world, but they think and feel in different ones. Environment might be called reality, and his pseudo environment seems equivalent to what today is called constructed reality. You listen to what a lot of people, they don't even know why they doing what they doing, right? It's, yo, I was born into this. This is the world that they have, and cutting, you hear the language, they have a certain way of talking, and it's like it's them. They born and gonna die. They have been automatically into that. Like I said, I've wore many hats. I've never been obliged to anything more than what I chose, to deal with. Meaning that if this right here affects, I'm gonna take, action. Outside of those type of things, I'm gonna utilize the situation. Like just use it to for what it is meant for, right? Social constructism has more recently been rooted in symbolic interactionism and phenomenology. These are all speculative area. We told you there's an operative and there's a speculative. You look up symbolic, right? You look up phenomena, and you will see those are all speculative areas, right? Social construct of reality. So this system is building a reality for people. And I'm not just talking about the gang culture. We got the woke culture, the we not black, we melanated. We can see this system in all of them if you can just step back and watch, right? So, the concept found its hold more than 4 decades later. Much theory and research pledged itself to the what? What did it say? Much more than 4 decades later, much theory and research pledged itself to the basic tenet that people make their social culture worlds at the same time these worlds make them. It is a viewpoint that uproots social process simultaneously, playfully, and seriously, by which reality is both revealed and concealed, created and destroyed by our activities. This is Marxism, people, right? This is, New World Order, Illuminati, you cause, we build the world, you do everything that we created for you to do to take all of your rights away. It provides a substitute for the Western intellectual traditions, where the researcher earnestly seeks certainly a in a representation of reality by means of proportions. In social constructism terms, taken for granted reality, right? Are cultivated more interactions between and among social agents. Furthermore, reality is not some objective truth. Multiples realities that compete for truth and legitimacy. Socially constructism understands the fundamental role of language in communication. So while we are watching our reality in our face, there's somebody watching from a distance and causing things to happen just to see, or to cause it to happen because it benefits their agenda. We have been played for a fool. We have been dealt with, wrong. And the number one thing is we need to see and step back. But the problem is you give it to a youth as they walk out the door, the conflicts happen amongst, those in that middle ground, those play areas, as they socialize with each other. So inside of these, whether these stages are, this is implemented and placed inside of it, whether it be from an adult on to the child, and then that child taking that and making it a reality for him and everyone around him, because then you also have music, TV, like in the environment that echoes and repeats their system depending on where you at, right? You might be the Oxford sweater type where you wake up to Mozart's and those type of things, and you're in that spell. You understand what I'm saying? And that's what I'd say we need to start implementing on our children. And I'll give like a whole list of things that, I attempted. I really attempted. I already had this stuff known. So, it's the losses we take, man. And that's why I do this. In social construct, this the term, taken for granted or cultivated from interactions between and among social agents. Furthermore, reality is not some objective truth waiting to be uncovered, though positive scientific inquiry, rather there can be multiple realities that compete for truth and legitimacy. Social constructism understands the fundamental role of language in communication. Okay? So now we understand that pardon me here, right? So now we understand that symbolic interpretation, right? The symbols that you see, right? Interprets, and then you have an echoing through a grooming of an outside society to build you into a train of thought. What is that? Constructivism. What is constructivism? It is a theory of education which posits that individuals or learners do not acquire knowledge and understanding by passively perceiving it with a direct process of knowledge transmission. No, rather, they construct new understandings and knowledge through experience and social discourse, integrating new information with what they already know, prior knowledge. So you grow up, right? As you growing, you gather a bit of information, right? As you gather that info, like say, you grow up, your mother say, oh, XYZ gangs, or you might have certain individuals coming in and out your house, depending on how much of the outside world, and depending on that outside world, community, gangs, librarians, you know what I mean, whatever, golfers, sports players, whoever is inside, your realm when you're growing up, you gather more information of that. Now, that also comes with other things, like say, oh yeah, in the neighborhood, we, the ball players, the sports people, the gangs let them go by, and stuff. You know how they laid these certain foundations supposedly down. right? Like, this is understood. Yeah, that person, they can make it out the hood. They never really bothered with you know what I mean? But then you see that it's like only telling you you have only a few bit of options, right? And so this social discourse integrating new information with what they already know, prior knowledge, right? For children, this includes knowledge they gained prior to entering school, right? So you have your in-house and the world that your parents have and their friends in that world, and as you walking down the street to conversing, you have that world, right? And then once go to school, right, you start associating with different thoughts, different philosophies, and your politics, your ethics, all of those things come into play now, right? Because it's built off of what you learned before, but now you take it and you add on, like I said. So me, I even though I might have chose a certain lifestyle, my ethics and morals never changed. There are things that I would never do, never thought about doing, right? Don't approve of, don't want to be around people who do that, but people would assume because you in the crime, right? That's what you would have approved of because this understanding. You know what I mean? Like me, let me tell you something. Like, I don't care how many people, a person raped on the street. I'm not raping nobody in jail to get back at somebody. You understand? Like that. Oh, yeah, they going to get you. Well, I don't know who's going to do it, but it ain't going to be me. And I'm not even going to be around that. My thing is that person should just not be in existence. You understand what I'm saying? I don't feel you doing those type of things. I'm laughing, but I really don't. I take that. I always been offended when I hear people say that because I've been in jail, and I'm like, I hope you don't think I'm watching anybody or being around somebody doing that to get back at somebody. Like, listen, if I find out that person did something, it's gonna be a whole different action taking place to them. That's not happening. I don't believe in that culture in no way, shape, or form. And all of this is going to play a part with this gang culture and all of that stuff. Believe it or not, you're gonna all this culture that we see, and I'm talking about in the regular, the world, the news, and what they talk about this LBG community. All of this stuff was implemented within these groups, believe it or not. And once we get to it, you will understand how this was all set within our community, right? Because I'm going to bring up videos. You're going to hear actual testimonies from these reputable people that y'all say are reputable. Right? Y'all gave them, so hey, I can use their words, and their words is gonna give the testimony to anything that I'm putting out. That's why I said I've always known coaches, you know what I mean, as far as gangs or, you know, politicians. I know a lot of people in a lot of different walk of lives. But that doesn't mean that everything is for me. For me is this, to put the mental free, to explain to the mental what has happened because I was able to observe, right? Do what they didn't want. I was able to observe, study, and then find a way, this right here, as to show and prove what is taking place because it's such a ill system. You know what I mean? So we're going to hear certain things. We're going to notice how they said 4 decades later. That's important information. That 4 decades later is telling you that while somebody sets something up, by the time that it's happening, you won't even realize that it's happening. And that goes for, Freudian, and then like I told you with the Freudian slip, and how, we hear that no homo pause, that whole game, and how that game brought in and ushered in the LBG community with the mantraism of um Sopranos and different things like that, these different shows, right? So we're gonna go into and we're gonna see how this system, not just, black, white, Chinese, but how this system ushered in this movement, right? So we will go, 4 decades back, right? We'll go even further. We'll go, all the way to, century one at times. You understand? As a matter of fact, we'll be going BC right after this. Once we touch into the God section, we will understand how that system has put us here today, right? The science and how they use that, because we're dealing with a speculative. I told you how you can use the Bible and jump from verse to verse and make a whole story and build this system, because this is what it is. It's a false reality based on the imagination. So, your pineal gland and all of these things that you might refer to, but it controls your waking dream. You have dreams when you go to sleep, right? But in your day, you are actually dreaming, right? You are visualizing something. You might see a Rolex and somebody might tell you a way to get it, and you visualizing that you'll be up early, 5 o'clock. Need you to start working, right? You're gonna go to work, and so you visualizing and you are imagining that. That's a daydream while you are actually doing whatever you're doing, right? And you're seeing your hand and all of that, you are visualizing something that doesn't, have tangible existence. That's a daydream. And so, while you're waking moment, you are actually controlled by your daydream. So then you have a people who construct these dreams and put you in nightmares. You understand what I'm saying? Because they keep you distracted with this system of constructivism, right? And so, we go back into this. It goes associated with various philosophical positions, particular in epistemology as well as ontology. I never say it right, forgive me. Politics and ethics. The origin of the theory is also linked to Swiss development psychologist Jean Piaget theories of cognitive development, right? So then on this it goes, while the behaviorist school of learning may help understand what students are doing, educators also need to know what students are thinking and how to enrich. We know when you enrich bread, right, you bleach it. You know when you enrich in rice. So, think about when they talking about this, enrich what students are thinking. So they'll keep you more into the daydream, right? And those who they can utilize for their benefit, then they'll dream you over here, How many, how humans make meaning in relations to the interactions between their experience and their ideas. Human development in relations to what is occurring with an individual as distinct with development influenced by other persons. The importance of socialist learning, how interaction with adults, more capable peers, and cognitive tools are internal by learning to form mental constructs through a zone of proximal development. Understand, through your area, the approximation of where you are at and the things that you are doing. This is how you develop. So the first thing a person would have to be, you can't necessarily give it to them, right? Is a sense of identity, meaning that whatever you feel, right? First that, then you teach them how to maneuver throughout this in a way for them to be um at peace, meaning that, right, you say you in the gang community, right, you not in it but your environment, you learn how to be yourself, right, without giving that community anything to notice you. I remember I had a rhyme one time and I said, um, you gotta be in the hood damn near invisible. Like, like you could have a brother and nobody knew that that was your brother because he just do his own thing. He low key, like some the people that been in your house, they be like, oh, that's what's the name, brother. But like nobody ever messes with them or nothing, but nobody, ever really outside of yo, what's up, right? Because they not, you know, in that daydream, right? They not in this daydream. So it's how to be able to maneuver in this world without being, a mental slave. And mind you, the worst part of it is those who are not the mental slaves tend to go around and control the slave. They become slave owners through indoctrinations and all of this stuff. That's what I'm saying. I never did neither or. I was just maneuvering me. Like I wasn't, controlling other people and that type of system. I'm not on that type of time. You know what I mean? And so this is what I'm telling you this system is, right? Those you not saying necessarily you might not even because the identity becomes there. So after a while, you wouldn't know who was the facilitator because that stance, the way the person behaves, it goes outward. So then after a while, you don't know who, right? Because then their image change. So then they start facilitating in something else. Say if they was the gang banger here, now they facilitating some religious movement or something like that. Or yo man, you should get down with this here. We know you good because you used to roll with that, and now they got a whole new system. But so it won't be this identity. We'll show you other ways later, right? So you could understand. Pairs, cognitive tools, at initializing and learning from mental constructs through the zone of proximal development. Internalized, right? Concepts of constructivism has influenced number of disciplines, including psychology, sociology, education, and the history of science. During its infancy, constructivism examined the interaction between human experience and their reflexes or behavior patterns. Called these systems knowledge schemes. Schemes are not to be confused with schema, right? The term that comes from my fault, theory, which is from information processing perspective on human cognition, whereas Paget schemes are content free, right? The plural synagma are concepts. For example, most humans are schema for grandmother, egg, and magnet. Forget, I'm saying that all wrong. So forget, I always say it wrong, right? So anyway, right? Then we just gonna close it up and showing you social constructism. So now we went from, remember, the symbolic way of interpreting things, using symbols, hand signs, words, different things, right? This social construct that was given to you as a youth, and then it went into going out in society, in a society, or the information you got was based on whatever society your parents was in. But now when you go out, society has changed through this manipulative system. So now you're gonna learn, oh well, your parents was wrong and this over here is right, but it's just a system to keep going until they build this communist system. So, what is social constructivism? Social constructivism is a sociological theory of knowledge according to which human development is socially situated and knowledge is created through communication with others. Like social constructism states that people work together to construct artifacts. So now we're in this society, and in this society, there are people within that society that help push the agenda, right? So remember, you use the symbolisms, right? That how you see these symbols, whatever it be, gangs, cars, right, jewels, whatever the symbols might be, right, and how you put these values to them, right? You're sad, whatever the case may be. That's the symbolic thing, right? And now that symbolic thing has already been constructed before you came, right? So when you're born, whatever that symbolisms might be came from in your household, hopefully, and hopefully not, right? Hopefully not, because then that means the less those things, like me, I was raised by, my grandmother basically and my father, and they are foreign. So I didn't have like American influences within my house. I went outside of my house for those influences, right? Now, when I was outside those, and it was more from learning than me being influenced by, like, me being bad was just natural. Right, because I went through bullshit with my moms, right? But as far as just like I'll say, okay, put it like this, my badness probably came from that, right? But now I'm in this system, right, of growing up, but I'm in a household where they wasn't on that type of time. Everything was, mellow. So everything that I learned outwardly, it was a lesson. It wasn't something that I took to this die hard fact. Like I could be on the block and see, gang activity or whatever, and I'm not taking that in my household. I'm not, that's not an all day. You know what I'm saying? It's like 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 they can't get out of something, so they don't know how to maneuver. Me, I don't care what gang you in. I just care that you was active, because they're not meant. I could trust you more than somebody who was not, when it came down to criminal activity. But even inside that criminal activity, right, I can listen and hear certain people who were not die hard, right? And meaning that they didn't think a certain way. So when they said certain things, it gave you the warning that you didn't want to necessarily deal with them on those type of activities. You rather keep, like, say, you reeing up from them, cool, right? But you don't want them reeing up from you. You see what I'm saying? Like it's good to know them for being able to get in contact with people, but you don't want to be so close to them that if they get caught up with something, they can put the bag on you. You know what I mean? Like you dealing with them like a passion. Is not a solid foundation where you want to block with this person. So then when it's time to point a finger, oh, I can land it. Nah, I never was that type of person. I'm not giving you that because I could hear it in their talk. You know what I'm saying? And so that's what you would have to learn in this construction, right? So then it goes, it's people working together to construct artifacts, right? So they can make you, the full god. Social constructism focus on individuals learning that takes place because of their interactions in a group. See, me, I was always, like I said, I was REM. That's me in the corner. That's me in the spotlight losing my religion. I'm there, but I'm not there. And hey, my religion is going. I never had a religion though, but I'm just saying, right? Social constructism focuses on individuals learning that takes place because of his or her interaction in a group, right? Objects can be used for many things, but its shape does suggest knowledge about carrying liquid. The gang suggests certain things. I'm only using the gangs because this is, believe it or not, the most pushing factor within our community. You might not think it, but yes, so this is why I'm using this, not, not picking any gang and don't pay attention to Crips or Bloods. I'm just saying that structure, right? And you can see where it's coming from. You can see, right? So the objective can be used for many, so this gang, this group can be used for many things. But since you put it in place for it to be violent and to collapse amongst itself, then that's what it's gonna do, because that's what you set it for through the music and these type of things. So when we think about these gangs and we think about what was said and what was put into them, this is how we get what's come out. This was by design. Remember, it was the outsider, the white man who said what you can't be, what you can't do, what you gonna develop out of. And then, right, they let these certain individuals who took those viewpoints and allowed them to spit it back out onto the community. Jay-Z said, I did these so you wouldn't have. I'll get the verse right, so you wouldn't have to, and this, that, and the third. When you listen to these things, it's a trick. It's a mental. It's verbal warfare, right? Because he is telling you to while acting like he's not, right? But the activities and texts produced within the group as a whole will help shape how each person behaves within that group. A person's cognitive development will also be influenced by the culture that they are involved in, such as the language, history, and social context. So we can see this system was placed within our community. The natural world has a small or non existent role in the construction of a scientific knowledge. They're putting this system and working it on you. Merely that a strong social constructivist claims that all scientific knowledge is constructed ignores the reality of scientific success, right? So now we are inside of the laboratory. You see, we went from inside your house, we went from your household, to you in the street, to now we're seeing that, the red lining and the green booking and the sundowns and all of that is the construct, right? Those are the things, but all of this is to have this separation, right? To bring it all together and then have it all explode upon each other out of fear. And outside of that fear and that fear mongering comes, that new world order. You understand what I'm saying? And we've been seeing that through all of the different elements, like I pointed out with the killing off the malls, through the holiday wow out, starting with Cabbage Patch Kids to Elmo, up to things as simple as a pair of gloves. You understand what I'm saying? So that brought in the the cyber, because people was not willing to buy clothes and stuff like that online. So now you got the cyber, so then you had what was it, Black Friday, right? So now you got cybers Sunday or Monday, excuse me, Sunday or Monday, whatever. But you understand, this was through the grooming process, turning everything digital. I don't you stop at the lights with your measly asses. We keep going. We got easy passes, Jay-Z again, right? And so we see these developments that was placed, and then we can understand, oh, that's social construct. So first it starts off with you, right? And that you are developed by the world that your parents, are in, right? But those worlds are also in combatants to other worlds. These worlds are all created, right, to control the masses, right? So you have to get into one of them through common sense. What would be logical to you based on what was already given to you? So remember, you are in a dream two type of dreams. You have a daydream, right? And you have, your regular dream, what we would call at night. That's why you have dreaming, which would be sleeping, but then you have a thing called daydreaming. Daydreaming would be your third eye, or your ability to visualize what is being said. If you have the ability to visualize what is being said at that moment, you are actually dreaming, but that dream is connected to a reality depending on what reality you are living in. Right? You could be living in the reality of speculation, where everything is real strictly off of what people speculate, because you don't need tangible evidence. You don't need real facts. All you need is enough people to say that that's real, and that's good enough. Right? So there's two realities there. It's a reality of, okay, yes, I have this right here, right? And we got the reality, or we could speculate that this is the key to heaven. And my hands is ashy. Um, right, so we could speculate that this is the key to heaven. You understand what I mean? So those two things, the reality is in my hand. What we can speculate what it do opens up a whole new can of worms. And so this system of common sense, what we will be getting into, this speculative, form in this operative, as we can see. The operative is what is, acting, but is all based off of the speculative, how the mind perceives things, right? So this information, it might be too much for some people, and if it's too much, it's okay. Don't beat yourself up over it. You know what I'm saying? It's what it is. You know what I'm saying? Hold on a minute here. I wanted to bring this up, right? So let me take this picture down. Remember we was talking here. So I wanna um go over here, take this right? Take this down real quick. All right. So inside here, remember we talked about symbolism, right? So, we see, right, we have the unks, right? We see heavily promoted the Africa, the unks, right? We see the I don't know if you can see my mouse over here, but we see the pyramids and all of these things. These are the symbolisms, right? Now I don't know if you know who this group is, right? This is X Clan, right? So we see the Egyptian pharaohs and these type of things. They use these symbolisms. Now, mind you, this is back in the 80s, right? I believe X Clan was 80s or early 90s, right? Then we got, Snoop. I want to point out, hold on a minute. I want to point out his feet work. I wanted to point that out to you, right? So then that's Snoop again. I ain't got to do it twice. Then we got Lakim Shabazz. Now you got to remember, this is all at a time when Christianity was the major thing. So in the industry, hip hop, this was what was being promoted. I ain't gonna do Professor Griff. I'll do him another time. Snoop again. Um, right now, this is the cap is. I wanted to point that out because this was actually the fraternity that started the Crips. We will be getting into that. So again, we got symbolism, right? And what is that? Some people say that's that white power symbol, right? Right. Then we got again. This is African Bambaataa again. keep in mind what we are talking about and what was being promoted. So we see again, we'll be breaking down the Zulu Nation as we go on. I wanted to point out how again he's rocking the same thing like the Lakem Shabazz, the Fez, but then he has the Egyptian, symbolism on it. I want you to pay attention to all of these joint information, right? So we got the Kappas again, right? Then we're gonna come over here, poor righteous teachers. We see the Jewish Star of David, but we also see the Circle 7, right, which is the Moorish science, or the 5% nation, right, which is all, all I believe this is supposed to be um the 5% nation symbol, right? But it has, as you see how they do with the joint information, right? Then we see again African Bambata. I don't know if you know about what's the brother name? What's his name? Um Campbell, I forgot his name. He does the podcasting and stuff like that. He be arguing with the people. He was down with the Zulu Nation and all of that. Hassan Campbell, right? So you see these type of things, and you should understand, right? Because he's affiliating himself with Malachi York and the whole Nubian nation, and you see the claims and allegations against them. If you look into X Clan, you would see the claims and allegations against them. If you listen to Monster Cody, you would hear the claims and allegations that he have against them, the Crip affiliation as well, right? And we also hear it if you listen to Bounty Hunter, what's his name? Bounty Hunter J or something like that. I know he's from the Bounty Hunters, listen to his conversations and you will hear the same thing as well. So when we right, and here go X Clan right here, right? So we see how we use these symbolisms, right, to pull the people in to this black thing, but what are they really bringing in to the community? Right, that's what you need to ask yourself, not what they use as a symbolism to pull you in, right? Because this is the glue, this is what makes the people all unite. But what is the underlying message? Because I just showed you how we went from Islamic groups, Christian groups, 5% nation of Moors, which is a lot of this, which is all of this, to be honest, right? They all come from the Moors. So when we look at this system, what is it all telling you? I'm not going to get into it now. We will find out as we continue. I will be ending this right here. We will, like I said, I just wanted to do a wrap up real quick. After this, we will, let me come back up on my, right? So after this, we will be getting into the next segment, which is God. We will be going into the Epic of Gilgamesh, but we will be in Babylon. We will be all through Babylon, and this is what's going to take us to the next stage of understanding how we are here in the position we are in today. So we will not allow them to, play word semantics and games and run us in circles. That's what I'm doing here. I'm showing you what Freemasonry actually is, right? I'm showing you the old systems, the Christian, we're going to get into all of this. But what is Freemasonry in a nutshell so far? We know it is social construct. Now we understand what this social construct is through its symbolisms, through our relations to our personal information, to the world that we got around us. Peace. Until next time, let me bring up my outro. I'm out of here, peoples.